허브라직. So sick. What's going on, Fortnite fam? Welcome to the FNCS. This is NA. We just got done wrapping up EU. We got to see the first week of Major number 2 over there, but now it's our time. Now we're here to see some action. Welcome to Chapter 5, Season 2, Myths and Mortals. Now I have a couple myths standing by with me. I'm Zeke. I'll be your host, but we also have Kelly, we also have Vivid. I feel like you've probably heard their names before. Friends, welcome to Major number 2. Not only is this the start of a brand new major, but at the end of this, more spots available going to Global Championships. So how are you guys feeling coming into today?
Oh, I love the format, right? Last year we were greeted with such a gift throughout the year, the qualification spots going into globals. Now this year, of course, repeating that kind of process, Major 2. I feel like there's so much pressure on the line for anybody looking to qualify for globals, right? Because if you think about the layout, after this, there's only one more major number 3. And at that point in time, that's pretty much the last chance any of our competitors will have to qualify. And Kelly, if I was competing, I would not want to go that far into the competition to kind of risk my qualification.
No, not at all. And I am so excited to get into these games because if you guys haven't been keeping up with the drama with this most recent season, there's been a bit of a roster apocalypse going on in the North American players, literally global champions breaking up. But we're going to have to see how that affects everything once the games get started.
Yeah, why don't we just start with that, right? Let's start where we always start, and that's duos we want to highlight for y'all. Of course, if this is the first time you ever watched Fortnite competitive, welcome. We are happy you're here. Let's get you kind of caught up. So let's start with Acorn and Cold. These guys just won Major number 1. They already have themselves a spot secured going to the Global Championship. So it feels like for me, Vivid, they're just looking to play gatekeeper for everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, Acorn and Cold, this is a duo we love to see kind of come back and continue to run through Major 2. Kelly, they are just so good.
Yeah, and they're still landing over in Fencing Fields, which we saw them absolutely dominate in Major 1. They beat out second place by 170 points. I don't think it was much of a surprise, though. Acorn and Cold have been one of the most consistent duos for a very long time now, when it seems like all these other players are kind of breaking up and not having synergy. That is not the case for Acorn and Cold. So I'm excited to see what exactly is going to be happening here today. In Major 1, they didn't have relative to them, didn't have the best performances in the open qualifiers and semifinals, but clearly that didn't affect them too much because they ended up winning the whole thing.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and jump into actually one of the newer duos that have formed coming into the season, right?
Here we go.
Mentioned the roster apocalypse. The next duo that we kind of want to highlight here is Canada and Cooper. Now, everybody used to the NA competition is used to hearing Canada and Agers. They've been together for so long, but this season the split has finally happened, and everybody's kind of like, wait, Cooper, global championship winner Cooper, no longer duo with Miro? I mean, they won an in-person event together, and to kind of make a decision to split up from your duo when you guys were doing that well is kind of crazy. But for me personally, I'm kind of excited to see how this duo can actually manage, because Canada, we remember, he at one point in his career was like, you know what, all these IGLs on this region, they're trash. I'm gonna go ahead and show them how it's done. And he's been in IGL for the longest time, but Cooper's kind of been in that role when it comes to them and Miro, or him and Miro. So now kind of like 2 IGLs on the same duo. We'll have to see how that kind of pans out for this major.
Also, we all love to say this stat, but Canada, the only player to go to every single FNCS Grand Finals. Is he going to do it again? Well, that was back when he was playing with Agers. And speaking of Agers, his new duo mate is going to be the world champion. We know him. We love him. It is Booga. And I swear, Booga has had to play with every single player now that is a top player in North America. But joining up with Agers, it looks like they're going to be landing over in Mount Olympus right there. So, of course, we can expect the aspect of speed on them, as well as Zeus's Huntress DMR. But as far as these two have been competing together over in the most recent Cash Cups, they actually had a pretty good performance so far. They've gotten a few 7th places, but in the most recent one, ending up in 3rd, which is actually what Booga placed in the last major. So I'm a little surprised with him and Aviv doing so well in Major 1, breaking up and now joining a new duo.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody knows anything about NA, we're used to calling this the Booga effect. Gets to choose who he wants to do it with and causes all of those switch ups to happen. And a duo this season, Kelly, that is used to getting what they want as well. Oh gosh, like who is it? Gosh, their names, I just can't really. Oh, Peterbot and Pollo, the duo that everybody is willing to give the championship to early because that's how well they're playing. Everybody kind of thinks this FNCS is almost a waste of time because they're so confident that Peterbot and Pollo are going to win it. And if my eyes do not deceive me, Kelly, I'm looking at the bottom right there. Does that say 5 cash cups won?
It doesn't even do its service because it's 5 cash cups in a row. And not only did they get first place in all of those, it is the amount that they have defeated second place by that is truly astounding for this duo. And you can see at the bottom, that's kind of where they started off. Just a 36-point lead against Dukes and Noxie. But everyone remembers the 3rd cash cup from the season versus Clicks and Epic Whale, where they literally won 5 out of the 6 games. It was mind-boggling. And then you can see in the most recent one, beating out Threats and Sphinx by just 67 points. However, that still is 3 out of the 6 games won. The fact that that is one of their more lackluster performances and they still get first place is a bit of a surprise. However, a lot of duos have been trying to contest them. Of course, they're going to be landing over in Grim Gates, which is a huge POI. It looks like Quanti and Chubbs might try to be contesting them today.
All right. Okay. We'll get to POIs in a second because first, what I want to take a moment here is to introduce our casters. They'll be calling all of the actions. So we wanted to get their thoughts as well on duos they're excited to see. This is Monster D-Face and the Best Taco.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Zeke. And I mean, Taco and I are for sure on the Peterbot and Pollo train here because you kind of have to. Grimgate's such a powerful drop spot. And if Taco, if they get more or less uncontested leaning towards finals, it could just be a runaway train.
It's not even about being contested at this point. I'm starting to believe contested, and especially in a lobby format like this MDF where you just don't really know which duos are going to be up against. Sure, there's 250, but everybody being split up into 5 separate lobbies. For a team like Peterbot and Pollo, Peterbot boasts a 68% win rate when he's contested off spawn. So if anything, I would imagine that this would just be a huge benefit to this team that's already riding off a lot of momentum.
Yeah, and they continue to show it. You see the clips popping and it's kind of surfacing online here all over socials where players are, you know, pretty proud if they're able to take down Peterbot. Essentially, it becomes an accolade at this point with how much of a great season he's been on a run on alongside Pollo. So, I mean, Zeke, for us, we're going to be keeping laser focus right now on Peterbot and Pollo and see how they perform throughout today's competition.
And I couldn't blame you, right? I don't think anyone could blame you. The community, like Vivid said, are pretty much looking at them saying, yeah, they've already won Major 2. Just give them the axe, give them the spotted globals. Let's go next. Now, Kelly mentioned the map. Let's take a moment here to focus in on that. With a new season, of course, comes changes to the map. Why not start things off with Mount Olympus? Now, Kelly is your queen of Greek mythology. She was recently on a drop spot and called out this is what she's excited about. So talk to me a little bit about Mount Olympus.
I mean, Mount Olympus is an absolutely incredible POI. Not only is Zeus going to be waiting there for you with his aspect of speed, but of course we do have that Zeus weapon as well. And there's just so many new POIs. There's new items. We have new chests that have been added to the game. And it just looks so glorious. And I know that's like, you know, not an issue for everyone else, but just the way that they add these new POIs to the map just gets me so excited, Vivid.
Of course, we do love new POIs. Southeast looking pretty strong as well, but unfortunately being overshadowed by the potential that comes from the northwestern side of the map. 2 other POIs that have been added, the Underworld and Grim Gate. These POIs are, of course, going to feature their own little boss battles up here where you can gather a couple of things that'll give you an advantage. But honestly, my favorite part about this part of the map, it's going to be that river, the underworld dash that you can kind of get from just dipping your toes in the river. It's going to give you 3 of those dashes so that way you can kind of use them throughout the match. And honestly, it's kind of been the name of the game this season, making sure that you have those dashes for as long as you possibly can, right? If zones kind of end up here, Zeke, gosh, the chaos that will ensue.
Bro, I love landing here, right? The first thing you do is you either pick up a gun or you open a chest and you immediately drop into the river Styx, right? You've got 3 charges to work with and everyone's just zipping and zopping, trading shots. You're looking to hide. You're looking to keep one in case everything goes awful, like me most of the time. And you just got to try and dash away. It's so much fun landing here. So let's talk about these medallions, okay? Kelly highlighted one for us. Now with 4 medallions in the game, there's going to be one that kind of stands out, but can we just kind of talk about these really quickly?
Yeah, I mean, awesome medallions kind of added this season. The aspect of speed, of course, pretty straightforward. Going to allow you to move just a little bit faster. And the next one we have to talk about, Kelly, the aspect of agility. Those underworld dashes, it actually regens them for you throughout the match. You don't even need to dip into the green river up there to actually gain those charges.
And of course, everyone is excited for the aspect of Ccfn, going to be over in the underworld. And then finally, Ares is going to have the aspect of combat, giving you just a little bit of damage.
Yeah, so good. Again, we want to reiterate that aspect of agility. It's going to give people that Styx River dashes outside of that locale. So many people are going to look to prioritize this, right? Especially as they're looking to contest high ground, things like that. It's going to be crazy. We also have some new weapons. I mean, the Gatekeeper shotgun. What do you guys think? With 3-round shots, of course, there's ways to kind of change up how many shots you have. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is kind of the strongest shotgun this season, but we are kind of like in a preference, a little bit of a season. Some people are still opting to actually take the hammer pump shotgun, but the Gatekeeper shotgun being new, kind of introduced this season. It is a little risky though, Kelly, right? Because if you jump into a box and miss some of those shots, it may not bode so well for you.
And then, of course, we do have some new DMRs that have been added, which obviously the sniper meta kind of falling out of grace here with the DMRs being added to it. Definitely going to shake things up a little bit, but that Gatekeeper, man, everyone's going for it, and it just also makes Grim Gates that much stronger because you do get the mythic Gatekeeper there. So I think a lot of people are going to be gunning for Peterbot and Poyo or running the opposite direction of them, either or.
Now, let's talk about bunkers. All right, these are kind of these new little mid-game objective things happening. They don't always spawn right away. They kind of spawn around the map. Can you kind of break these down?
Yeah, so they're actually going to spawn just after third zone closes on the maps, right? So kind of in the early game, but like I said, just after third zone closes. So Kelly, sometimes they'll actually be in the storm, and we'll see some teams probably throughout the competition today actually go ahead and tank damage to make sure that they get some of this loot, because there is so much loot within these bunkers.
Yeah, you're gonna have that is the only location for the mod benches now. So if you need to grab some gold like we see here on the screen, mod up your weapons to exactly how you like, well then this is the way to go. The only concern though is, although there are 9 locations for these bunkers to spawn, only 5 of them are going to spawn in a game. So kind of similar to what we saw with the forecast towers, there is still a level of RNG with it.
That's right. So now we've kind of put all the cards on the table, right? We've given you guys a lay of the land. Let's talk about expectations. Now, again, we're going to be jumping into lobbies. There's going to be so much action. And for these duos, they're going to hop in one lobby. They might have, so many duos they're used to seeing. They might play their next game and it be a completely different list of players. How do you guys feel we're going to fare in this first week of competition?
But it's going to be tough, right? Remember, we're kind of going to be jumping into a lot of lobbies that are kind of going on simultaneously. You're not going to know who's going to be landing at your POI, right? And with the potential of such a strong POI like Grimgate, I'm assuming kind of that we're going to see a bunch of teams kind of get out of there with that aspect of agility. And we're going to see so many pop-off games throughout the competition today.
Yeah, and there's also a level of mysteriousness going on with this most recent qualifier, because we had an EU duo slip through the cracks and make their way to round 4. Of course, I'm talking about Paco and Mixon. So, with that, I love it. You can never really predict in Fortnite what's going to happen because there's just so many variables when it goes into the FNCS. So, will an EU team break top 10? Maybe, maybe not.
Please no.
No problem.
We'll find out. Kelly already looking to curse the whole lobbies. All right. Well, with that being said, it is that time. The competition is upon us. So let's kick it all off. Let's kick it on over to our casters to begin the competition.
That's right. And I mean, Kelly's definitely onto something. There is going to be a lot different things happening today, including the way we're going to cover these games, right, Taco? Because we are going to be having tons of rolling lobbies, of course, happening at once.
Of course, but again, for a lot of these teams that managed to be one of the 250 teams that qual the MDF, it's mostly about trying to get those series points secured. You're already looking relatively good because if you get 1 week even, that's usually going to solidify you for at least that lower bracket in the semis. But again, they have to make it there first. And so with the rolling lobbies feature, at least there's one positive mentality where if you get elimed early, you can still just jump right back in and be ready to queue up for the next lobby.
Yeah, and that is going to be the name of the game, of course, right? How well can you play? And ultimately, it doesn't really matter about, like you mentioned, coming out at the very, very top. You just have to perform pretty good, earn as much as possible to end up and land yourself the best odds as possible, of course, for getting to the finals in those upper bracket spots. Those seats are going to be, of course, prestigious as we start gearing our way through these weeks. But here today, it is going to be a matter of you don't necessarily know who is going to end up in your game. So you could end up in one of those lobbies where there are more people landing around your general area. And a dynamic of Fortnite plays out just a little bit different in these types of lobbies because these are not set lobbies, but these are just the upper caliber, if you will, of the best in NA.
But as far as Grimgate is concerned, MDF, I'm expecting it to be a bump in POI today. Whether Peterbot and Pollo are there, whoever's looking to actually take control of that drop-off rip is going to be the most interesting feature because, again, the analyst touched on it perfectly. That aspect of agility just has so much control, especially when it comes to height, and we'll get a chance to see how it pans out because at least our first lobby is ready for us to spectate.
All right, well, the first match of the qualifier is here, and we get to see how this is all going to shake up. This is the North American region, like we mentioned before, where it's the upper portion of the best here in NA in the rolling lobbies. A little bit of variety is going to be happening here as we start to touch down. The first team to be highlighted is going to be Bugha and Agers, as you can already see the feed beginning to light up for the early teams dropping down. But hey, if you get eliminated early, it's not going to be the end of the world. Bugha is going to have the best of the drop here as he touches down and gets the first 2 weapons. Is he going to share with Agers? I guess not. Greedy man. There it is.
They'll at least split the barrels. That's just to be expected. Bugha, though, that drop is the primary one to control, just getting that god chest immediately. And Quanti and Chubbs, Quanti has been very vocal, at least on socials, in terms of wanting to contest this POI here at Grimgate, but Bugha does seem as though he's elected to drop that drum gun to help out Agers. Meanwhile, Quanti and Chubbs can take advantage of some of the Fizzberry juice and get max shields. They want to be sure that they are plenty healthy when they look to tackle this challenge up against Bugha and Agers.
And this is kind of interesting, even from Bugha and Agers right now, right? Deciding to come to the Grimgate. It's no secret, like we mentioned before, that this is going to be the home of Peterbot and Pollo should they make it all the way through to the very end. So it's going to be difficult to claim this drop and claim it with dominance because you can tell right now the best duos out there are willing to fight for it, or at the very least take their chances here in the qualifier to have the best odds at having successful games round after round. Jump over to the other side, though. We got Man City's threats. And Sphinx here is coming right up from underneath the battleground. Sounds like there's a good amount of teams actually just above them here. And they're trying to catch themselves a nice little third party.
And that's the thing, is that no one duo can truly claim a POI unless they just win it outright. You're going to have to battle for control in each of these lobbies that these teams find themselves colliding in. Sphinx, though, rather tactical on the approach, just trying to crouch around, but has been spotted out. Gonna take some decent tags, going for the window peek, but it's just not good enough. Eats way too much damage in return, forced to close himself off inside of his box, but still wants to keep some pressure going because he's got threats inside, mixing things up, and he's already found 1 knock. Threats first on the board here for his duo, and that's going to buy ample time for Sphinx now to finally get some shield regen.
And well played on Threats to capitalize on the opening window there. That Sphinx was the one tanking the damage, but Threats doesn't miss a beat, and that's really how you want your fights to go, especially when there's multiple duos nearby. So big respects to Threats, man, wrapping up this battle super quickly, not exposing them to any extra threat or potential duos to set up on them, because little do they know there are several just nearby. And again, as we jump back to the Grimgate, let's not forget there's a lot to highlight here at this drop spot, outside of course, the mythical weapon upgrade, that the potential there, but this lake as well, right, which gives you those dashes like we chatted about. You get all this extra mobility and essential advantage over the next team you get to fight. So if there are aggressive teams, this is going to be the place to be, this general area.
It's also extremely problematic, though, in terms of just trying to chase down elims, trying to prioritize immediate knocks and follow-ups. It's really hard to key at Grimgate just because of how effective movement is there with the Underworld dashes. But right now, Death polarized. definitely not the position they want to find themselves in here at Pleasant Piazza. Already been involved with a handful of pressure. Polarized boasting 1 elimination though. At least 2 points having been secured for this duo, but with no heals on either of them, no possibility for shield to get regen anytime soon. Polarized seems to have found some bandages for the time being, but still gonna make things rather difficult here because there are a couple of other teams hanging around the vicinity. And panning right back over to Grimgate, you can see no one has truly managed to take control of this POI just yet. No challenge out onto Cerberus. This team's just trying to make sure they have ample material for the box fights to come.
Yeah, but Skittles and Trashy do have 2 eliminations, so things might have settled down here for the most part. I thought for a second it might have been out to Quanti and Chubbs, but no, Quanti is still inside the main facility here of the Grim Gate, so fight's breaking out. Skittles, no stranger to early game battles. This is almost his comfort zone. I feel like FNCS after FNCS, he finds himself very much contested. And he performs relatively well for a player that's been contested for most of his career as a professional Fortnite player. On the other side, though, we have a little ambush being set up right now by Stiff and Cursed.
That's only if Badger and Dash are going to take the bait, though. Doesn't appear as though they have any idea at what lies in wait here between Cursed and Stiffaroonie, and they're just going to continue to crouch off. They kind of recognize the fact they definitely want to utilize this stealth to try and get some early surge going, because again, that's why you'll see so many teams trying to set up in these kind of ambush positions, like you pointed out, MDF, but
ai posti di combattimento.
With the way that Cursed and Stiffaroonie are just continuing to approach here, they are definitely expending a decent amount of time. So you'd imagine that this is kind of just an engagement that they're going to have to force at some point if they don't get the upper hand off the immediate surprise.
That is right. The clock is ticking here. The Stiff and Curse likely recognizing that as well. Let's not forget this little offshore location does yield out some metal as well. So you can say it was worth it. Playing nice and patient here.
Yeah, especially if you're going to invest as much time as Stiffaroonie and Curse did, but danger on the horizon. Spotted out M-Pen and Pump in the background there. They could be potentially looking to approach, and that's another thing that's a really big point of consideration, because even when you're looking at a POI like Grim Gate, for example, you have to always keep in mind there's probably going to be teams that are looking to push from the underworld into Grim Gate. It's just been so common, especially for anybody that's had a chance to kind of preview what Cash Cups have looked like. Sure, we know that Peterbot and Pollo have been very commanding at that POI, but it's also just so much volume in terms of the amount of teams that just continue trying to pressure at that POI, and it's just so easy to make that rotation from Underworld straight to Grim Gate, and vice versa. A lot of times you'll see teams, once they get that aspect of agility, they also want that aspect of Siphon to control as well. So just some food for thought, some things to keep in the back of mind, that even if you clear out Grim Gate, you can't necessarily consider it safe.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, when at the end of the day, when you're holding an aspect, you have a huge target on your back, and those POIs are always going to have teams looking to possibly try something different, right? Try their luck if they catch you in the process. But Zervo on the move right now. Him and Nitrix successfully have a set of eliminations, but the tags pretty good from the surrounding opponents. This is going to slow down their route for a second. They got the tower, they got the extra material. Now it's a matter of farming tags here. Who's that down low? Is that Booga and Agers already here? Approaching on the territory.
Booga possibly looking for a quick rotate with the wings of Icarus. But it's interesting to still see him opt for that as an item slot this early on. So it does appear as though rotates are the primary focus for Booga and Agers. A lot of action happening though. Still at Grim Gate, Trashy, Skittles, Death, and Polarized. The immediate box fight action that you would anticipate. But it's going to be Death and Polarized actually. Death trying to get a different line of sight now onto Trashy and Skittles' box. Know that he got a couple of tags earlier on, so at least a little bit of surge damage But he's got to be careful on his backside. Skittles and the dashes, the underworld dashes is the primary problem they're encountering. But you got Mini Peterbot and Sporks also looking to tango here. And things are picking up in a way that Death and Polarize certainly did not anticipate. Death finding himself incredibly low now, forced to full retreat here. But Sporks just one layer above, continuing to try and get some decent damage, if not a knock or elimination outright. And so for now, quick pause here as Death Polarize, they're going to be forced into expending some of the Fizzberries. Still have a full one in Polarize's loadout though. But they are running relatively low on builds and heals, and that's something to keep in mind for the mid game.
Well, I'm more impressed how Polarize and Death actually managed to come back into this. So let's not forget, just moments ago we tuned in with them, and they didn't have any shields, so they must have caught a bunker. Must have found something to put them back in the game. The Sporks and company do not care. They're pressuring right now. They already forced the other duo out. Skittles has backed off, and Sporks and Mini here have a chance now to take a clean 2-on-2. The longer Death and Polarize wait, though, the less likely they are to be successful here. As they, of course, had the aggression going, and they've expended material as well. Yup, look at that. Perfect time to just check in. 20 mats here on Polarized. It's only a matter of time here, Taco.
Got to be concise on this approach because, like you just said, MDF, they don't have a whole lot of builds to work with for either of them. Polarized.
Oh, here he goes.
19 remains. Tries to see if he can just take the box. Jumps immediately in. Mini's going to be the first to fall here. Full elimination count now. Polarized with 2. And that's exactly what Polarized needed to keep this engagement going, because now they can look to possibly just full pressure onto Mini's teammate, but instead Sporks, he's going to take that as the ultimate retreat call, and for good reason.
You know, this is a big weekend for my guy Death here, just signed to Team Outlaws, so he's got to represent here. So we jump now back with Bryce and Bolts. Land far eastern, and you can see they're wearing the damage of the zone on their sleeves here. Bolts forced up to heal now and just kind of reset. But 2 eliminations, every team we've jumped in with so far seems to be well situated, and this lobby is off to the races as we are already nearing half the player lobby sent back. Oh, up top at Dorito. Cold shot here from Bulls, nothing connects, but time to move. Don't want to play with that zone for too much longer.
Smart too, just using to the natural features to try and preserve as much of their builds as possible. But Bryce and Bolts, they know that there's at least one team that's also following a similar rotate pattern to themselves. So they could be looking for an opportunity, especially since Bolts has that Reaper Sniper. If he's able to connect with even a body shot, or better still, a headshot, some nice search that they could get going. But Pump and M-Pen, they're actually looking to take the water route, crossing the river here from Rebel's Roost. Now find themselves just outside of the underworld.
4 elims for this team right here.
And they've definitely been moving.
Off to a super hot start here. Quanti has probably picked up Chugs like 2 or 3 times this game. I swear, I've seen him in the feed fall into different players every time. One of those ones was Skittles.
Yeah, again, I just think a lot of players definitely trying to get active early on, but for Pump and M-Pen, this is actually a really nice approach coming from the dead side of the zone. And when you already have 4 eliminations, you know that they've got ample surge already locked in, so they can just prioritize positioning. And we were just speaking so highly of Death. Unfortunately finds himself knocked in this situation. Dash and Seek not looking to let up anytime soon. Once the knot goes through, you can expect to just be fully keyed immediately after. Polarize, maybe trying to lurk here, hope for an opportunity to see if you can get Death's reloot card and look to make some magic happen, get his duo back into the lobby.
Yeah, Dash and Seek are definitely feeling pretty good right now. 3 eliminations now. Gets to watch that back one more time. Death obviously found himself out of position, likely in a spot that he couldn't throw a wall down. Let's see. Oh no, he just got pieced up, pushed out. Oh my gosh, yeah. Dash quick and clean with it. Unfortunately, Def didn't stand a chance. And look, he had true control of his general area, but Dash and Seek land on top of him, and this is what we talked about. You play around this Grim Gate area, you're going to have teams that have, obviously, the Underworld Dash effect. They can jump on top of you before you realize it.
It's so hard to keep players out of your box as well.
Yeah.
Really easy to just be caught off guard. But Dash and Seek, well played to them. Also likely getting the audio cues from Polarize, who's still hanging around, but it's not because Polarize wants to still be there. He's pincered between two separate teams. Curious to see how he manages to fare later on.
There's not a chance, right?
You wouldn't expect it, but you never really know. Polarize has pulled off some pretty insane clutches in the past from a solo perspective, and just have to hope for the best sometimes for some of these teams involved, just like Quanti here at Rebels Roost. Going for the reboot now onto Chubbs.
Trying to set a record for how many times can you bring back your duo in a FNCS finals or FNCS qualifier. Quanti's definitely on pace for the record right now. At this point, sacrifice him again and make history.
The problem, though, is when you're expending that much time just on reboots or revives, I mean, that's time that you're missing out on farming. That's time that you're missing out on trying to accrue damage for Surge later on. So don't think that they're out of the woods just yet, simply because Quanti's able to bring Chubbs back. It's still going to be very difficult for them to just continue to move through each of the next zones. And Sporks, he could use a bit of good luck here, but he's probably not going to be able to find it. Quite literally stuck between a rock and a hard place here as Veer and Freeze, they're not going to give him the time of day. An immediate elimination there. Sporks will have to queue up for the next one.
Nice little elimination there. That's going to also refresh him up. Here at the south portion, and the zone pulls their way. Bit of a lucky draw for them, as there's a large body of water here separating the bulk of the land, and you can see other duels already making the move on in. Saw in the distance there, Cease, one of those teams, poised up at a box. We'll do some updates here shortly. Let's see. Freeze on the move here, trying to edge their way down to the beach's edge. And there goes Cease and Jack right now, already on the move, just behind Sphinx and company here. So they're right in between all these duos, and ooh, Jack gets punished there. 2 eliminations for the veteran Cease and Jack here.
Almost wondering if Cease might be in control of the shield potions or not, because Jack only having small shield potions to work with. This is not the kind of heal situation you would typically expect. It's going to make things relatively tough for Jack and Cease in future rotates, especially as the congestion continues to build on this east side of the zone. But they're doing what they can. Quick replay now onto Freeze. And I know what's up next, Monster. You see the sniper in hand. You have to expect it's probably going to be a nasty headshot to follow. And that was certainly the case here. Things continue to be nasty for Bugha and Agers, though. Bugha now having to function as a solo. Not an easy spot to be in.
Not at all. Not at all right now. Not only is this zone like tough to play off of, but again, doing it by yourself now, it's going to become that much more difficult. Let's see it though. Bugha definitely keen to have survived. Let's see how he lost his teammate though. Agers did have 2 eliminations, so clearly he gained something for it. Okay, so he finds Carlson there, and it seems like right afterwards it's Bolts who claps back, puts him down. Bugha fortunately wasn't able to get the save there in time. This time around he is going to pull zone though, so he's pretty situated, we should say. And those Wings of Icarus, like we said, plenty of charges as well on those. He's got the mobility, Taco. He's going to have not a problem staying alive, I think, for quite some time. But can he get the damage, right, to sustain his way through? Because probably going to see something happen there.
Yeah, that's the real unfortunate part, is that we've approached that time of the game where getting a reboot off is essentially impossible. Even for somebody like Bugha, So positioning is going to be absolutely key as far as his first lobby of the day is concerned. Well, this team right here, Briga and Monty, you can see a lot of teams relatively central, but as the zone continues to pool, you can expect some early rotates to come out as well for those teams who are a little bit more concerned about making sure that they don't get caught out on the rotate, especially because of the fact that the zone, there's just a decent body of water that these players are having to deal with as well.
I saw Quanti and Chubb still alive as well. They made it in successfully on the north side of zone. Doesn't seem like Surge has been an issue for them. Right as I say that, though, Monty finds Quanti there, so let's see if all that saving of Chubbs was worth it. All the time invested here in this game. Time is also crucial in these types of formats. Time is currency here. Let's see it. Edging clips right now. No eliminations just yet. But of course, consistency is everything here. Bugha in the box across from him. A body of water potentially separating them from safety here to come. But no, the zone comes south, so everyone else is going to have to edge their way towards this team here.
But things are still relatively painful for Edge and Clips because that damage threshold only 29 above. I'm not saying they're desperate just yet here, MDF, but odds are they're going to have to pressure into somebody's box soon enough or find some really clutch shots from a distance if they want to maintain their strong positioning. Because you can have the best positioning in the world, but if you don't have the Surge to go with it, it's basically all for naught here. And Max, Smiley getting forced out of so many of their materials down to just their last bits of metal as Max trying to find a way to tuck through. But again, a lot of congestion starting to build on these low and mid-ground layers here. Fizzberry Juice also running incredibly low. Max does not have the loot that they need, and they know it. A refresh certainly has to be on the mind.
Yeah, tough spot to be in right there. Had to double all the way back just to get to his teammate there, burning much more material, so they're wearing and tearing down on the little bit that they do have. Little bird's eye view puts Bugha at the front side of zone. And again, you can see just the veteran ship kicking in here. Bugha, who knows how to constantly position himself to have the highest advantage here in these end games. And Clips, let's see if he can do the same here. Much different spot for him to be in, though. No shields here, so more cautious here. Peeking out, trying to gather information. Zone's gonna bounce back here now to the eastern side. And he's a fair bit below the damage threshold, so this is not gonna, it's likely not gonna end very well for him here as the damage is starting to tick on. And okay, he's gonna go to heal instead of finding the rotation first. Let's see if it ends up paying off.
Clips is just hoping for placement at this point, seeing if anybody else can be elimed first, but it doesn't seem as though Clips is going to catch a lucky break here anytime soon. They find a moment, but the shots aren't going to be enough. Still needs a little bit more, and finally, that last hammer pump going to solidify 70 above the damage threshold, but still so much ground to cover here and not many materials to do it with.
What are the odds? The team edits the wall, closes it, making it just weak enough for the single axe. Let's go ahead and take it down. Just the little things sometimes that connect, and now he's just moments away from a little bit more placement. Finds a little refresh. Okay, so he's got the material. No heals, though. This water's so dangerous, but you get the dash. Use it to get into Bugha's box and past him. And all of a sudden, there's another duo there. Bugha slips out, sensing danger nearby. And look, although likely tempted, he knows better. He's just playing the front side of zone, soaking up placement points right now. He's got his wings out here, eyeing up the high ground. Don't do it, buddy. It's a good team up top. It's Cease and Jack here. We're playing this one out, and look, dashes to the front. Love to see that here. Position himself back up again, gives them just enough room to work with here. And this is where utilizing your dashes become a little bit more prestigious, right, when you're on high ground.
For sure, but it does appear as though Cease expended his final Underworld dash. If he gets chopped out anytime soon, could be in some trouble, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, it's Skittles and Trashy playing that low ground. Decent chance, though, they might even end up running into Bugha if they continue tarping through these frontside moments. And in fact, it's going to be Bugha just a layer above. Was so focused on the team directly in front of him, doesn't even realize Skittles and Trashy blasting him from underneath. And finally, Skittles going to find the elimination confirmation onto Bugha. And just like that, his run's going to come to an end.
What is Tavern doing right now? He's trying to find his way outside and around here. And he takes so much damage there, just putting themselves in position. His teammate nearly taken out in the rotation process as well. Any of these tags slip through and they're going to be in a very, very bad spot. Someone has to start splashing or something ASAP, but no, he goes for the fishing first. That could be a mistake. We'll see. Those are win conditions now being utilized up. We had ideas here for potential heal-offs. We'll see if NA ends up going in that direction. So far, it's electric here. Threats and Sphinx. Another set of eliminations, bringing them on up to 5 now. We're comfortably approaching top 10 here. Cease and Jack have to be very cautious of allowing teams to get too comfortable, to give them too much time to bounce back and forth between the zones, sliding back and forth, and they'll likely find heals. They'll find med kits, right? They'll get that win set up.
But what I'm looking at so far, Monster, is all of these loadouts are not boasting the greatest in terms of heal-off. Tavern might be one of the best ones we've seen so far with the 2 floppers and 5 splashes. But again, it's all about making it to that final moment in the first place. Jack running every which direction up above. Cease still helping provide a little bit of suppressive fire from the high ground. And again, it's probably going to be Jack to play Disruptor here soon enough. Out of builds entirely. Sanctity set for Evan. Tries to tango with Tavern, but it's not going to be enough. Tavern with another elimination. 5 in total. Edgy having another 3. But Edgy, he's so incredibly low. It's only a matter of time before Tavern chooses to try and utilize some of these splashes. He's actually running further into the zone. Going to take his chances with the heals that he has. Akichi also trying to hold on, but only 1 more medkit left to work with here, Monster.
Yeah, no, I think Cease has got it. Cease had 2 heals in the inventory there, including the medkit, so things should be just fine for him. And this is what I talked about. Allowing teams to, not get too comfortable could have backfired here, and luckily, Cease's competition didn't have much to work with, and just like that, they win the game, and they didn't just win it by freely walking their way through the endgame. No, they had 7 eliminations to go as well, Taco.
No, they definitely did a fantastic job playing that high ground, making sure that there wasn't going to be anybody that could sneak up on them from that secondary height either, Monster. It's just exactly what you would expect from such a veteran player like Cease, and Jack as well, doing such a great job at disorienting players that were starting to build in some of those more congested layers inside of the mid ground.
Yeah, I was a little concerned. Jack was a bit passive up top. You saw those 30 seconds left on the clock there, but he turned up just when it mattered most. 5 set of eliminations, and just like that, the first highlighted game of the day goes to Outlaws, Cease, and Jack there for a big win. Zeke, update us, though. How you feel about that one?
Monster, this is NA. We saw quite a bit of heal-offs over in EU, but NA, we don't like that. We're like, no, you're going to heal off. We're going to try and chase you down. We're going to try and do everything we can to make sure you've expended every possible resource that you have. Now, Cease, as they pointed out, he just had just enough in the tank, right? You got Jack rolling around, isolating these duos, just kind of disorienting them, like they said. And it's because of that, Cease is able to come out on top.
I mean, Cease and Jack, shout out to them, right? They had the high ground going actually into some of those moving zones, and a big point as to why they were actually able to hold it is, prior to this, you can see that they definitely have it established right here in 11th zone, but because of where the zone was actually positioned, look at this, it's in the northwest region of the map, and before Cease and Jack actually went up to the high ground, they made sure to dip their toes in that green river, so they had dashes to actually use to help hold the high ground, and it ended up saving them so many mats, right? They didn't necessarily need many refreshes to actually hold the high ground throughout the entirety of the end game. And as a result of that, Cease, Jack, they win the game from height.
And I love the teamwork that we're seeing here. Jack throwing the med kits over to Cease. While Cease stays out of danger, Jack's going to go down, try and grab just a few more points through those eliminations. And actually does a pretty good job at it before he goes down himself. And that med kit is what allowed Cease to survive and make it all the way to the end, beating out the other players for that heal off.
So awesome to see Cease back at it again, coming out with a big W here in NA for week number 1. I'm surprised we actually didn't see more of like the aspect and the medallions coming out. You know, aspect of agility allowing players to kind of attack that high ground. So I would have expected someone to be up there, but showing on the minimap, if you kind of looked at that before the game was over, that jug was out in the storm. So whoever had that, they were eliminated. They didn't have an opportunity to use it. So I feel like it's not quite the chaos we've seen quite yet, if that makes sense.
Still definitely a good game there, and somebody else who had a good game in just game number 1. It's going to be Tavern. Check out how his game went. And yeah, Zeke, you know, first game definitely delivering for NA. Of course, going to the heal off right there, but as you can see, look at this zone. Tavern and Edgy already positioned very, very well going into the 9 zone, picking up a refresh right here. It's so good, and just being already on that south side when that zone's actually pulling to the south side, all of those north teams had to kind of come towards them. Then of course having zone kind of pull towards them on top of the refresh, they were able to tarp for so long and put up a top 4 position. Shout out to Tavern and Edgy.
Yeah, I love their positioning in this match right here. It seemed like they kind of flowed easily between like second height all the way to low ground there, depending on what the best situation was. So Tavern walking away with 5 eliminations, joined by Edgy's 3. That's 8 right there. And that's why we're going to be seeing them up in our leaderboard right now. Only in 10th place, though, but I'm seeing some big names up here, Zeke.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
oh.
Well, go for it.
I was going to say, Muzz already in 3rd place, and I believe we have a special shout out for him, do we not?
That's right. I believe it's Muzz's birthday. So happy birthday to you, Muzz. We hope to see you stay in that top 3 as the day goes on. But as you could probably, some of you might be wondering, wait a minute, we just saw 1 victory royale. Why is there a bunch of 1s on that right side of the screen? It's because we have a bunch of lobbies all kind of going on at the same time. We just tuned into 1 happening. So with that in mind, how do you guys feel like just this initial like starter game played out? Do you guys feel like now that we're going to be hopping in and out, kind of weaving between these lobbies, things could look more, less chaotic, different? What do you think?
I think one thing that I definitely noticed in game number 1 right there, right, because we're not playing set lobbies since there's not a set number of games. I feel like we saw a lot of early eliminations throughout that game, right? So maybe a little bit less stacked throughout that mid game can kind of shift the game in one way or another. So pay attention for some aggression as we kind of jump into some of these games.
It's also interesting because with these lobbies the way that they are, a lot of the top competitors that are getting into the top 5, top 10 are now going to be queuing up together. So these lobbies are going to be harder and harder. And on the opposite sense, the players that went down a little early are going to be going up against other duos that have gone down early. So it's going to be interesting to see how these lobbies evolve.
That's right. Well, hey, we're ready to get back into all of the action. We're actually going to tune in with Peterbot and Pollo and see how things are going in their game.
Get right into it with, of course, one of the teams that we expect to put on the performance here today. And what are the odds he's going up against Mini Peterbot here on the west side of the map? Of course, he's got a fan, and this is what happens when you're just this good. But, you know, I think true Peterbot's going to show him how it's done here. As Pollo already has 4 eliminations here. So it does seem like they're in the zone, Taco.
There can only be 1. And I'm right there with you, Monster. I think that it's going to be Peterbot. It's the Peterbot show regardless, but Agent Peterbot looking to make their debut here in one of our next lobbies of today. And if there's one thing that Peterbot and Pollo love to do, it's box fight, but Peterbot takes a massive tag from his alter ego. Still comes out on top for it. Banana going to get dropped there from Pollo as well. Just waiting for Peterbot to create a little bit of space. Does get an opportunity to pick it up and expends it. And now, exclusively Sports trying to do what he can to keep this box fight engagement a little bit going still, but jumps through the window. Mantle maybe catching Pollo a little bit off guard here, but it doesn't make a difference. In the end, it's going to be Peterbot and Pollo who cleanly wipe out Sporks and Mini Peterbot, and now Ranks, by the way, just been hiding this entire time, just praying that nobody realizes he's still sitting around.
I'll be honest, I think Ranks is making the right move here. I don't think he should move at all, actually. We have a lot going on here, though, of course, as we're just jumping in. Tons of action. In fact, let's jump back in with Pollo and how he got that 4th elimination. This is Rinks' duo here. You can see Pollo, tip-top shape and form here. In our perspective, we might think Rinks is low-key. However, Pollo's probably going to go check to see if he can find the rest of that duo. He's not going to forget that one there. Now jumping in with Costa and Zypha here, who are on the move north side of the zone here. Just eyeing up, hawking the perimeter, making sure things are good, but they see some builds out. Use the dashes here because they're going to get replenished anyways. Then right on in this keying of a team right now. And I think this is going to be the trend, right? We're seeing all of these games very much fast-paced right now here for the qualifiers. You have to maintain a certain number of eliminations if you want to be up at the top.
Well, especially when you're dealing with a lobby that has Peterbot and Pollo in it. They've been breaking records and establishing themselves in NA as of late as the elimination warlords of every single lobby that they're in. And so you've got to be quick with it. Otherwise, you're just not going to have an opportunity to look for Surge because Peterbot and Pollo, they don't waste any time. They are aggressive for a reason. It's the same thing that Thrill and Swax are trying to do. Banana Bandit on the other end. Tomato Tickler as well. A little bit of a theme with that duo.
Getting right back into it. Peterbot and Pollo, though. We're already on to the next duo here. You can see they got a little bit of a split angle here. Pollo focused up on the player on high ground. Peterbot chasing a one down low. And really only teams that are super confident can play like this. Splitting up, trusting in one another, go ahead and handle business. And just like that, isolate him out. One mistake and it's over. You're sent right back. And it's kind of crazy. You watch Peterbot and Pollo run through players just that quick. And they'll do it to a player of any caliber. They take advantage. They play confidently.
And it's crazy, too, when you consider Peterbot typically taking over IGL responsibilities between the two of them. Pollo, though, just such a strong fragger in his own right. It comes as no surprise, really, to see how frequently they tend to split apart whenever they're looking for those hyper-aggressive initiations, and for good reason. Again, that team just has so much trust in each other. Or if anything, they know that the other will back them up if things do tend to go a little bit south, but they're already making quick work of the teams that have unfortunately come their way as is. And that's going to leave players like Xerxes and Xe or Exo just on the outskirts of some of these POIs, hoping that they can get some surge damage online before things go a little bit too late, because again, the longer it takes to get that surge online, the worse off you're going to be as far as those rotations are concerned.
I definitely agree. Can't spend too much time here. NTMZ's got an opponent. Duo all the way across. Duo to the other side. Oh yeah, look at this. Look at these bases. Folks are set up all around them right now. Much different dynamic right here at the center of the map, if you will. Seems like on the outskirts, everyone's king, everyone's pushing. You get center, you get east, and basically everywhere that's not the underworld, you know, dash locations. If that water's not accessible, everyone's pretty chill. When things change, get to this side of the map.
Chimp and Scissor. They're going to be just outside, in between Restored Reels and Pleasant Piazza. Chimp, though, seemingly spotted out what could be a moment for Chip and Scissor, but no, instead, default to rotating. And Peterbot and Pollo, they found their next, what's looking like to be a victim here, is Velok doing what he can to try and create some space, but if there's one thing about Peterbot and Pollo that they hate doing, it's leaving eliminations. And that's why Velo, he's just gonna get completely ran down. Underworld dash, plus the Fizzberry. It just covers so much ground here for Pollo. Immediately tackles the other side of this box here. Velo gets a decent tag back onto Pollo, but his health is just so extraordinarily low. Trying to get that small shield potion online, but Pollo's not gonna give him a chance to fully heal. Just, again, continuing to harass Velok with so much pressure, and now It's going to be Peterbot on the backside, but Peterbot's not even needed. Pollo has already gotten the job done. And that knock almost makes me wonder, MDF, where was Velo's duo throughout this entire exchange?
I have no idea. I thought they were chasing a solo. Meanwhile, it's a whole team. Peterbot blind checks the bush. Turns, there's a team in there. Misses every tag. And just like that, the heat's on him. But again, they're already on the Flowberry Fizz effects, right? So you can see how quickly they can maneuver, reposition. Just make it that much more difficult to track down. But Boyo was here. Boyo finds his tags, and look at this. Conversation is always surrounding Peterbot, but Boyo, such a complementary duo here. Highly skilled, very, very talented, and you can just see confident regardless of what. Down to 57 HP though. Now it's Peterbot's turn to go in and turn things around here. Put a little pressure on, and the pre-fire there onto Costa was great. For the 1-2 now into Zypha.
But again, Peterbot and Pollo, they are not letting up. Peterbot especially. Zypha and Costa also having expended a decent amount of heals just to hold on. Peterbot's just trying to make it end quickly, but Zypha gets a little bit exposed. Wallet it, opening up in a way that he did not anticipate. Now Peterbot on the wraparound, going for the flank maneuver here while Pollo continues to aggress on the front side. But Pollo, one more time, shields have been cracked, white HP exposed. Zypha, Costa, still the same line of sight though. They might not realize the fact that Peterbot's looking for that flank engagement still. And just continuing to apply so much pressure here as Costa continuing to build out. But now it's Peterbot on the back foot. It's going to take a second here.
This is what they're doing so well. Boyo's not even pushing in. He's just keeping pressure up, keeping them distracted. They do this for one another to see if the opponent lets their guard down, overwhelm them, essentially overwhelm the senses, right? Walls being tagged, pressure coming in from all angles. It's Peterbot who's really trying to get close and personal on the walls, but it's Boyo who's putting that constant pressure on. And look, cutting them off, looking for angles just like that. All of the small advantages, and look at how he slowly backpedals as well while he's putting these tags in. You have to respect it. They play this so well.
Oh, but Peterbot, not only that, but they're running solo on build. Pollo and Peterbot, they didn't have a choice. They had to continue keying Costa and Zypha. Finally, Pollo gets some reward here with that elimination, and Peterbot as well. But again, as you just pointed out, Vert still is on the other side. They could potentially look to lock Pollo and Peterbot inside of the storm.
This storm is doing a lot of damage. Silicon Vert here, you cannot miss those tags. It's going to be the last few times you get to get freebies on him, because you know exactly what duo that is right there. And just like that, Pollo and Peterbot get themselves into the safety's edge here, but for how much longer can they keep up this pacing? That was a very, very drawn-out battle, and you can see it's wearing on the loadout here now.
That dash medallion is just so insane because, again, yeah, Storm was doing a decent bit of damage, but Pollo, Peterbot, they don't have to entertain Vert and Silic. They literally just dash right by them. Now looking to aggress a team. But no, instead, gonna opt for a quick rotate. Trying to save some materials.
He's going right into it. That's what the dash can do. Peterbot takes full advantage, and I saw it coming. The opponent, unfortunately, did not, and then makes the fatal mistake. You just invited him down by breaking the builds right there. And they're back. Fully back now.
God tier refresh.
The loadout to show for it.
Everything that they needed, and then some. And now, Silic and Vert, they're going to have to try and deal with a very healthy Peterbot and Pollo. Can expect that engagement to be rather problematic. But checking back in with Banana Bandit and Tomato Tickler, just kind of lurking around the low ground for the time being, in a decent position. Zone's gonna pull them just a little bit further east of where they're currently situated here at Pleasant Piazza. This could be a nice opportunity though for Banana Bandit and Tomato Tickler to get some Surge online.
Definitely have to do something. This lobby's gonna need a little bit of life, because otherwise there won't be much left in it. But Chimp and Scissors here are definitely doing just that. Down bodies around them, and they're already at 8 eliminations. Pressure coming in from a multitude of angles, but they're more focused on freeing themselves up here. Have to leave the refresh behind. This could turn to backfire them. Now they do have heavy material. There it is, the swap out. On the other side, Peterbot and Poyer get closer and closer to 20 eliminations. This is quite the game already. We expected something big, of course, but to watch it unfold firsthand in real time is definitely something different.
Okay, but Chimp and Scissor, with 10 eliminations themselves, they're definitely keeping a decent pace there. If we're looking at elimination counts between Chimp, Scissor, Peterbot, Poyo, now Chimp gonna look to try and wrap around edge of zone, but it's got to be careful. A lot of teams already stacked up inside the center area, but Chimp and Scissor, they're able to claim some of their own space, and we're right back to the Peterbot Poyo show, and it doesn't look like they have any intentions of slowing down, just constantly forcing their way into all these other teams' boxes, breaking down walls, breaking down edits, but Poyo, a little bit lower than he'd like to be. Peterbot actually gonna get knocked. It could be disastrous now for Peterbot and Poyo.
I think he's done enough. I think he's done just enough to go ahead and not only clutch up and save his teammate, but you see how the dash medallion is so versatile. Poyo was almost taken out, dashes back, puts himself in a position, and you know, your opponents are just so frazzled, like they have no idea where you are. How do you track in real time like that? And that's what Poyo and Peterbot do so well, tracking amongst the chaos. They just have full control over the situation. Meanwhile, Chimp and Scissor, just completely different type of keying going on here, right? Precise, and I feel like more tempered, right, as they're choosing the duos, as opposed to, you know, fighting everything that moves around them.
They have so much damage, though. Almost 20, 300, and then some above the threshold. Vert gonna pick off Furt Ice, and Peterbot managed to get himself back to full 200. So one more time, just gonna continue running it down with Poyo. 16 eliminations in tow. Low ground menaces at this point, but wouldn't be surprised to see them look to try and tackle high ground. Gonna trade that aspect of agility for a moment just so they can both get their dashes online, and just like that, see Poyo and Peterbot immediately up top. Viper stood no chance.
Before you can even react at all, wall down, they already have high ground, and you're done. You're taken out. You see them use the Flowberry